peanuts, TV shows, and live wires. At our construction site, there was this one guy who showed up for his shift with nothing in his tool belt except a small bag of peanuts. That's it. Needless to say, he didn't last long. I had a colleague who worked as a school counselor. She was supposed to cover 5 different schools. She would regularly call the school she was assigned to that day and say she was on her way to handle an urgent situation at another one. One day at lunch, she was enthusiastically talking about what was happening in her favorite TV show. The principal was sitting at the table with us. At one point, he stood up, smiled, and said, "Stop by my office after lunch." Turns out, for months, she had only been meeting with a handful of students each week. Once, I literally yanked a trainee's hand away just as he was about to grab a live power cable with his bare hands. He insisted it was fine because he would only be touching a single wire. The senior electrician politely asked me to get that trainee out of his sight before he turned into a piece of charcoal. As punishment, I made the trainee watch safety training videos for 3 days straight. Databases and Starbucks. One of my colleagues once deleted an entire database with millions of records. He restored a backup that was a week old, and when the client started asking questions, he did everything he could to prove the client was wrong, including lying and trying to falsify reports. It turned into a disaster. About 10 years ago, I worked at Starbucks. A new employee came up and asked why the water was just running through the coffee without changing color. Turns out he was trying to brew coffee without grinding the beans. Taco Bell and the printer. I was repairing tile at Taco Bell. We had laid about 10 tiles in 2 rows and carefully leveled everything. I told my helper, "Whatever you do, don't step on them." He said, "Got it, boss," stood up and immediately stepped right onto the fresh tiles. We had to redo the whole thing. The owner's nephew at a repair shop turned out to be a complete idiot. One time, he needed to test a printer before shipping it to a client. He said 10 times that he had checked everything. Of course, he hadn't checked anything, and the printer didn't work when it was set up on site. Not long after that, he was fired. The drill and Jerry. A coworker of mine was drilling a hole overhead using an old, heavy drill with a trigger lock. I told him it wasn't safe. The bit got stuck. The drill kicked out of his hands, and it came flying down. The bit caught his pants and started twisting the fabric. He was screaming. I yanked the plug out of the outlet. We had to cut his pants off. Thankfully, nothing critical was lost, but he had a lot of cuts. He never came back to work. 3 months after moving into a new house, a heating technician came by. He went up to the attic, looked at the system, and said, "Oh, this is Jerry's work." Then he immediately scheduled another crew, who redid about 90% of the entire system. Everyone at the company knew if Jerry installed it, it would probably have to be redone. The pilot and the donor kidney. I had a coworker who was a pilot and somehow managed to land a plane right at the very edge of the runway. He damaged the landing gear and bent a turbine blade. The old idiot didn't log anything. The next crew didn't notice the damage and took off. Mid-flight, they started having engine trouble, and when they came back, the landing gear wouldn't lock. Luckily, they managed to land. We just fired him. I work in an operating room. A colleague of mine left a donor kidney sitting out in an empty room, open and unattended. Thank God the organ was still deemed usable, but that's an extremely serious mistake. Our management loves the old-timers, so she only got a reprimand. The hotel and Kathy. During COVID, we weren't allowed to check in regular guests. Some sketchy guy showed up, and my coworker checked him in without ID and took cash. By morning, the guy was gone. The room was trashed, and the TV was missing. The hotel got fined. No one, and I mean no one, could outdo Kathy. She managed to mess up everything. Couldn't give correct change. Couldn't wash dishes without breaking them. She once ordered 700 liters more milk than needed. She flooded the kitchen 4 times and set it on fire twice. She could wipe down already clean tables for so long that she never got to the actually dirty ones. She threw away fresh cookies because she decided they belonged in a stale cookie tray, which didn't even exist. They tried to fire her more than once, but her mom would show up, yell at the manager, and Kathy would keep her job. The truck driver and the wine. 9 fully loaded pallets in a trailer, just tipped over and spilled everywhere. The driver hadn't secured the load. He was fired on the spot. He kept whining that it wasn't his fault and that he was an independent contractor. The guy caused $10,000 in damage and lost his job because he didn't want to buy a $50 piece of equipment. The new warehouse manager at a wine supermarket had never done physical work before. He decided to open a pallet of heavy Carlo Rossi wine bottles by cutting the wrap on all levels at once. I found out what happened when wine started dripping from the ceiling onto the sales floor below. Cleaning up soaked cardboard, broken glass, and wine is absolute hell. The funniest part? That guy was still a manager when I left.